In my family history project, I will be talking about my mother's maternal grandparents. My great-grandparents, Mary and Harry Wirtz, were born in approximately the late 1890s to early 1900s in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My great-grandparents moved to Hollywood, Florida in the late 1950s to live with their daughter, Alice, which is my grandma. What is your family background?
On my maternal family side, we are German. My great-grandparents were born in Germany and emigrated to the United States and settled in Pennsylvania near Pittsburgh. My maternal grandparents were born in Pennsylvania near Pittsburgh and eventually moved to Florida.
How did your grandfather Harry and grandmother Mary meet?
They were both raised in the same neighborhood in Pittsburgh, which was predominantly German people. They went to the same school and came from the same neighborhood and knew each other growing up.
Do you have any memories with your grandparents?
Well, unfortunately, my grandfather passed away before I was born, so I never knew him. But my grandmother, definitely remember her. She was a very warm person, had a little bit of a German accent. She never really worked, but she was a great baker and sewed a lot. She made a lot of her own clothes and actually sewed for my sister and I when we were little. She was very much a devout Catholic and walked to church when she lived in Florida. I don't know, she probably did the same up in Pennsylvania, but she was very much into her grandchildren, and in fact she taught my sister and I a German prayer that we still remember and say to this day.
Can you say that prayer?
Yes, it's German and I don't know the translation, but it is Jesu Kindlein kommst zu mir, mach from us Kintas mir. Mein Herd ist klein, kann niemand rein. I stu me lieber Jesulein.
Okay. Why did your grandparents come to Florida?
My grandparents, my maternal grandparents came to Florida right after my mother, who was their only child, got married, and within 2 years my parents were pregnant with my sister, their first child, and they wanted to be close to my mom, their only daughter, who was about to have their first grandchild. So that's what originally brought them to Florida, but then my grandfather developed Parkinson's disease, and the doctors thought that the warm climate here in Florida would be better for him than the very cold winters in Pennsylvania. They used to come to Florida to vacation and had a house here, so it was very natural for them to, again, follow their daughter, my mother, here to Florida. And they settled in Hollywood, Florida.
Okay, did your grandparents move to Florida with any children?
No, because their only daughter, who was my mother, Alice, had already moved here, so they came a couple years afterwards, and they only had one child, my mother, so she was grown, married, and about to start her own family, so they came here, retired, and to be near their grandchildren.
Did your grandparents find jobs in Florida?
No, as I said, they were already retired. My grandmother never worked after they were married. Prior to being married, she worked as a telephone operator. She used to tell my sisters some stories about, funny things going on at the phone company. My grandfather owned a neighborhood tavern or a bar with his brother, and it came from his father who started it. It was called Harry's Bar. And apparently the Depression came and business was poor, and they sold the bar, and he got a job at the telegraph company as an accounting clerk. which was at that time considered a white-collar job, which was like in an office. However, then he got laid off from that job, again due to the Depression. And unfortunately, my grandparents, as it's been told to me, lost their home and had to move into a multiple family home where they lived on the bottom floor and other families lived upstairs. My mother has told us in the past that she had to sleep on like a rollaway bed in the dining room, so she never had her own room for most of her growing up years, and her family had to share a bathroom with one of the other families upstairs. I guess it sounds pretty bad, but my mother never spoke poorly about it, and the families that lived in that house under one roof kind of considered themselves family, even though they weren't really related. And then I guess things got a little bit better. I'm told that my grandfather had a car, which a lot of people at that time did not have, and they were able to take some vacations to what is known as Lake Geneva outside of Pittsburgh, and they would rent cabins with lots of family and friends. So from what I understand, they had an okay life, but there were times when they were without a lot of money.
Okay, thank you very much. You're very nice. Thank you.